The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. May the Lord open our minds, understand his words, or listen, may proclaim it in our hearts that we might live it. Jesus again in reply spoke to the chief priests and elders of the people in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He dispatched his servants to summon the invited guests to the feast, but they refused to come. A second time he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those invited, behold, I have prepared my banquet. My calves and fatted cattle are killed, and everything is ready. Come to the feast.' Some ignored the invitation and went away, one to his farm, another to his business. The rest laid hold of the servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged and sent troops to destroy those murderers and burn their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy to come. Go out, therefore, into the main roads and invite to the feast whomever you find.' The servants went out into the streets and gathered all they found, bad and good alike, and the hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to meet the guests, he saw a man not dressed in a wedding garment. The king said to him, 'My friend, how is it that you come in here without a wedding garment?' But he was reduced to silence. Then the king said to his attendants, 'Bind his hands and feet and cast him into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Many are invited, but few are chosen.'" The Gospel of the Lord. This gospel parable is one that can leave us rather unsettled, but perhaps it was meant to be. The question that Jesus raises with the scribes and the Pharisees is a question that we all have to answer. And the question is, do you believe God is acting in our world right now? Or is our religious faith based on things that happened thousands of years ago? The Jewish leaders wanted to keep the status quo. They were rather comfortable in their positions of power. They had their routines. They had the way they were used and comfortable to worshiping God. And they had their power. And when Jesus comes on the scene, he's shaken things up. So their response, of course, is that this isn't from God, because it's not what we want. Do you believe the same God who divided the Red Sea, who spoke from the fiery bush, who gave the commandments, who promised Abraham a nation beyond number, the same God who sent his Son, born of a virgin, who suffered and died on the cross and rose from the dead, that same God is acting here and now today? Or was it all just in the past? So Jesus tells this story. Those were invited. They didn't bother to come. And the very people he's talking to know who he's talking about. The servants sent out were the prophets. They mistreated them and even killed them. It's the son's wedding. But who is the son marrying? He's entering into a love relationship, a permanent love relationship with all who are invited. That's why the one who doesn't have the wedding garment is cast out. Because you see, in the history of Israel, what happens? First, God invites the Israelites. He invites the Jewish people. Some accept the invitation, others do not. Then he invites all of humanity, the good, the bad, the ugly. But he invites all. But those who are found unworthy are those who refuse to be married. You're invited to the feast for a reason, to enter into relationship with the groom. The wedding garment is a symbol that the person is willing to be married to the groom, is willing to enter into a relationship with Christ. Just showing up isn't good enough. You have to be willing to be engaged, related to him, and willing to listen and do his will. Do you believe God is working in our world today? As I look out, I see the very couple who anonymously gave $125,000 to our school to help us to keep our school going. They're in our midst, and I believe that's a sign of God working in our world. Is God still working in our world? Some people, especially during this time of year as we come upon an election, say, why don't the priests talk more about abortion? Well, I'll tell you why we don't talk about abortion every week, which some would like us to do. Because as priests, we also deal with people who have suffered an abortion, who are sorry for participating in that, who recognize now how wrong it was. And they want to know God's healing and forgiveness. And as a priest, welcoming people back to healing and forgiveness, it's not right to have them come to Mass and be reminded of their sin week in and week out. Now, some very staunch pro-lifers find that difficult to understand, but they really shouldn't. Everyone should know by now that we believe in the sanctity of human life from conception to natural death. The challenge is, do we as individuals and as families live it? You see those newscasts since March. They have been telling us how many people are infected with the disease, how many people have died from the disease. They don't give us all the other details
of what other complications a person had, how old they were, where they happened to be, all the rest of it. No. They just tell us how many have died. How many keep getting sick? But do you know? I would love them to publish at the same time another statistic. 60 million people have died. Not from a disease. They were perfectly healthy. 60 million human beings have died because they weren't wanted. 60 million. Where's the outrage? And some people, when it comes to an election, they say, well, that's not the only thing we got to worry about. $60 million lost their lives, not from a disease, but because they weren't wanted. Our country was founded on religious freedom. That is seriously threatened today. And as Roman Catholics, we believe in the dignity of all people. All people, no matter their nationality, no matter the color of their skin. And when you and I stand before God, He's going to want to know if we were wrapped in the wedding garment of our union with Him or not. Every single one of us has a responsibility before God to save life or to destroy it, to live the faith we profess. And respecting life isn't just abortion. It's care for the elderly. And as a parish, we try to do all those things. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked. But you might say, in the given day, have I lived this day in such a way as to show I belong to Christ? Or I belong to a political party? Or I belong to what I need or what I want, or what's good for me and with everybody else? We will all stand before our God. And it's not judgment. It's the disappointment of being loved and not returning the love. I don't know about you, but in my relationship with my parents, what cut me to the heart more than anything else was to see they were disappointed. In the day that you and I stand before our God, who's given us every good gift you can imagine, spoiled us rotten, and we look deep into the eyes of the Almighty, there are pools of love. Will we see reflected back to us? Welcome, my good and faithful servant. Or will we see well up in the eyes of God tears of disappointment? I gave you so many opportunities to be my voice, to help someone else, to save a soul.